commits economic suicide as they pass a resolution that bans all Russian gas imports by next year. Europe was just talking a big game about how they need to reduce reliance on the United States after Donald Trump's unhinged comments and threats about Greenland, only to do this, which will make them even more reliant on expensive United States gas. This is essentially Europe sanctioning themselves. They realize that the rest of the world can buy Russian gas, right? Including China, India, and the entire global majority? That's the most pathetic thing about this. The EU failed to actually cause substantial harm to the Russian economy because the only thing they did was open up the market to BRICS countries to buy cheap Russian liquefied natural gas. So essentially the only thing European leaders accomplished was increasing the cost of energy for their own population in order to serve the United States interests. United States neocons dreamed of separating Russia and Europe the same way they dreamed of separating Russia and India and Russia and China. The only difference is that China and India isn't completely fucking stupid.
What's poppin', my friends, my family? Welcome back to Nick at Prime Time. As you guys know, I'm always in the live cooking. I had a banger hotspot video that I just came out with about Melania Trump and Epstein connections. I made sure that my Friday stream I already posted on my channel. Posted on my Upscrolled, which I'm greatly enjoying as a censorship-free anti-Zionist app. I explained before, Upscrolled is like Blue Sky, but instead of being infested with shit libs, it's full of people who support Hamas. It's base as hell. So I have that hotspot video coming out on Melania. And yeah, it was in response to the Melania movie because the person who directed it was Brett Ratner, who was in the Epstein files. So I did this whole dive this morning. Like first I was about to cover her documentary and how the director was part of the Epstein files. You know what I mean? Raped a few women, fled to Israel. And then I went down this rabbit hole where I discovered how Melania Trump is like some sort of fucking whore who was bought by Epstein and the capitalist elite. They passed her around a few times. She's Jeffrey Epstein's ex-girlfriend. And then her and Donald Trump meet. But we get to that more. You guys watch my hotspot video on that. I may do a segment more in detail later, but you guys know we gotta cook with foreign policy first. Big shout out to my friend Casey here. What's poppin', my friends? Hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, dude, our entire capitalist class is full of criminal, human trafficking, drug addicted, blood cultists. Like I think Americans and people in the West in general is not ready for the conversation on how the United States government and the NATO European elite engage in mass human trafficking systemically. It was famous how they used to traffic Ukrainian women, Ukrainian girls. Speaking about Ukraine in Europe, let's get to our first story. We have Carl Zod joined today. I'm going to try to cook as much as I can before he gets here. But look at this insane. This is from the Denmark Prime Minister. Continuing my coverage of Europe committing economic suicide. Don't get me wrong, United States leaders are incompetent, but nothing reaches the next level of Europe. Because Europe has completely deindustrialized themselves. They are now escalating the energy crisis that they're already facing. Because in order to serve the interests of United States neocons, they're going to sanction themselves, because once again, this is just a sanction on Europeans in the energy cost. Because India, they enjoying cheap Russian liquefied natural gas. And the West tried to pull India from Russia and try to use the same tactic that worked on Europeans because they was more than willing to accept it. And India was like, dude, we're not going to stop buying Russian gas. You guys are out of your goddamn mind. You guys are out of your goddamn mind. Donald Trump threatened tariffs. That didn't do it as well because India was like, bro, you guys not doing shit to China because you know you don't have the cards to play against China, so you guys punishing us instead because China is still buying Russian gas. Russian gas is pumping through Africa. They're building pipelines and energy manufacturing plants in Ghana, many places. I need to do a segment on that. Like Russia is playing a big part in building energy infrastructure with African states. This is why Emmanuel Macron, NATO, and the United States is panicking because they completely lost their foothold in Africa. You have Burkina Faso that's embracing Russia. You have countries that are even close satellites to the United States, like Nigeria and many others. You have European countries attacking them and claiming that they're victims of Russian propaganda because they're addicted to Russian gas. So, fam, this is Europe doing this to themselves. And it was led by dipshit leaders like Denmark's prime minister here. Let's show you this clip of her.
We have been able to take a very, very important decision within the European Union to phase out fossil fuels from Russia. And I think, or I hope that all Europeans can see now that it was a huge mistake to be dependent on Russian fossil fuels. We shouldn't.
How was that a big mistake? By giving your people a cheaper alternative for their energy needs, now there's a massive energy crisis in Europe. Europe has been relegated as completely insignificant on the global stage. Completely didn't. How is this strategy that you guys are doing now by propping up the United States energy sector by making yourself wholly reliant on the United States? How does this benefit your people? This is what they will never answer. These unelected, these fraudulent leaders, they were never able to explain an argument directly on how their neocon, hawkish, anti-Russian policies will benefit their people. But they don't have to because the NATO, United States propaganda machine, they destroy any politician. They destroy anyone in Europe who doesn't repeat the neocon United States talking points on the Ukraine proxy war. Because I told you, this is game time. Ukraine was the big gambit that the West had to take on Russia. They got Taiwan and China. They have Israel as their bully in the Middle East. This is prime time for them. This was go time. That's why everyone got the call. Every single progressive, established progressive in the United States and in Europe, they all supportive of NATO now. Even those like Ro Khanna, who used to criticize funding Banderite Nazis in Ukraine. Ro Khanna and many people in the West used to be critical of this effort to wage war against Russia using Ukraine. And you notice how they all got the call at the same time, and they immediately start repeating the script. Because if you don't, you will be supplanted by capital. Because the United States, and by extension their neocon puppets in Europe, we are dictated by a dictatorship of capital. Anyone who speaks about how ridiculous not having a diversified energy sector is for Europe, anyone who advocates that, hey man, I don't think having Ukraine as a part of NATO is such a big deal for us to change the quality of living for our people. If you said that, you will get immediately trashed by the European elites. You'll have tons of dark money and institutions fighting against you. It'll be the end of your career. You won't be able to go to the private sector. They will economically and financially ruin you. But tell me more about that amazing democracy that you guys have. This is why progressives and liberals annoy the fuck out of me, because they're like, we gotta save our democracy. What democracy? Our democracy is under threat. We don't have a democracy. We have a dictatorship of capital, which is exactly why every single European leader, from Denmark to Finland to Switzerland, all these countries, they sound the exact same on this issue. So let me finish this, because this gets even more ridiculous here. I'll finish it in full this time.
Very, very important decision within the European Union to phase out fossil fuels from Russia. And I think, or I hope that all Europeans can see now that it was a huge mistake to be dependent on Russian fossil fuels. We should never have done that. And now we have to make sure that we will have no dependencies on other countries outside Europe, not only on energy, on everything. And that's why I think nobody can discuss energy without discussing security. And nowadays you cannot discuss security without discussing energy. So we have to scale up, we have to speed up, and we have to be able to produce the energy that is needed for our households and for our businesses. So also in this area, we are in a hurry, and that is why the decisions that we have been able to we will sign today between Germany and Denmark is so extremely important. But a Europe that is depending on others is a more fragile Europe. So also on energy, we have to move forward on our own.
So you explain how Europe needs to establish their own independence. So in order to establish European independence, your strategy has become dependent on United States energy. You guys were just complaining about how Donald Trump is this crazy madman, but you have no cards to play against him because you guys are completely dependent on United States energy now. You want to know what happened? You want to know what makes this hilarious? Right as the European Union committed economic suicide by banning Russian gas, you had American gas that immediately skyrocketed in price. Look at this. You guys see what the American capitalists wanted? This is what they dreamed of. And the European leaders sold their people out in a quickness. You had neocon fantasies about separating Europe from Russia. They explained how this was extremely important. There were many neocon think tanks like the Atlantic Council, many others, who like, man, it's one of the most important strategic things the United States could do is separate Europe and Russia. And they wanted to do that so United States oil companies can greatly profit, not to improve the quality of life for Europeans. But look, the energy prices immediately skyrocketed by 40%. This is idiocracy in a nutshell. Look at these elite intellectual thinkers of Europe. Do you think these people have a single independent thought going around in their low IQ mind? No, they're given direction from their NATO master, which is ran by the United States, which is funded by the United States, which is directed by the United States to sell their people out, and they are more than happy to do it. In fact, they are bragging about it. So this is what they get because they will listen to these people. Like this is the article I had up earlier. These neocon dipshits. This was written earlier this month. This was a few weeks before they passed the ban on Russian gas. So you guys see how there was neocon propagandists writing for The Guardian. There was neocon propagandists writing in Washington Post, in New York Times. There wasn't a full-blown blitz attacking Europe and European leaders for, quote-unquote, fueling Putin's war by importing Russian liquefied natural gas. It said despite Brussels' pledge to ban Russian LNG by 2027, which is now an official reality, shipments to European ports increased last year. So, fam, Europe is already going through an energy crisis because they decreased their because the overall reduction over the last 3 or 4 years. And now they're going to make it worse because now they're going to rely specifically and only on expensive-ass United States gas. Do you realize how much they just fucked themselves over? And they gave Donald Trump all the cards. And now Donald Trump can just do whatever he wants to Europe because what happens once they ban Russian gas and Donald Trump wants to take Greenland and he uses energy prices as a threat? Yeah, karma is a bitch. No one should feel bad for Europe. The people who took part in the war on terror, helped torture civilians on behalf of the United States. These people are in support of United States imperialism until they are mildly threatened by the United States. And I also want to leave a comment. This is what I've been thinking about as well, about whether this tension between Europe and Trump, Europe and the United States is real or not. And I can see the argument that this is bullshit, that the whole tension between Europe and Trump was nonsense, because if there was true tension, why would you do this? So I can see the argument that this a kayfabe, fake pro wrestling tension between Europe and the United States as a way to justify further military spending and cutting of social programs so they can have security independence. Because remember, Donald Trump wanted Europe to provide more for their defense. The capitalist class in America, they wanted Europe to cut their social spending. Like, man, why are you providing your people health care for? Don't you know that we don't have a Soviet Union to compete against anymore? Don't you know that we don't have a massive superpower that we pretend that we treat our people better than them? So ever since the fall of the Soviet Union, you see the United States and the West slash social spending because they don't have to pretend no more. There's no comparison. We don't have to worry about anti-Soviet propaganda. Now they're getting around beat by the Chinese propaganda, which is 100% effective when they actually engage in it. But I think there's a good argument to be made, and I also want to leave a comment. I'm mad I don't remember your name, but it made me think about this, that this probably fake just so they can justify the expansion of the military-industrial complex with funds these people campaigns, that funds their, and it is the main driving source behind their power. So let's listen to this.
Let me be very clear. We want strong transatlantic ties. The US will remain Europe's partner and ally, but Europe needs to adapt to new realities. Europe is no longer Washington's primary center of gravity. The shift has been ongoing for a while. It is structural, not temporary. It means that Europe must step up. No great power in history has ever outsourced its survival and survived. These developments put a severe strain on the international norms, rules, and the institutions enforcing them that we have built over 80 years. The risk of full-blown return to coercive power politics, spheres of influence, and world where might makes right is very real. Since we last spoke here, the virus has started to spread. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney hit the nail on its head in his own speech in Davos. It's time also for Europe to take down its sign, to acknowledge that this tectonic shift is here to stay and act with urgency. When I was a schoolgirl in Estonia, before anyone had mobile phones in their pocket, many schools used the bell system to tell you the time. The first bell was a signal to go to the class, the second bell was a warning, and the third bell meant that you were late and there would be consequences. We are now dangerously close to the third bell.
So what we're going to do instead is make ourselves completely reliant on the United States and become even more dependent on them for our energy needs. So you guys see how they're setting this up as a way to justify spending more on their military spending so they can continue to implement austerity in their countries. Because I explained how the BlackRock Prime Minister of Germany, Friedrich Merz, he's cutting pensions so they can send money to Israel, so they can hit the 5% NATO funding goal. So this is why I'm starting to believe that this is bullshit. Like, you guys see how they engage in psyops on so many different levels. They want to present this idea that they're actually fighting when they're not. So Europeans will accept austerity on their population. The same thing that Americans have just accepted. Like, we have a $1 trillion military budget, as millions don't have health care, as we have Americans that are freezing to death, as the working class continue to struggle. $1 trillion military budget. And they don't. And the American ruling class don't have to do shit, but say, hey, don't you know there's some brown people over there that want to murder us? And then white Americans be like, God, no, I got to fund the military more. In Europe, they got to do these complex psyops. That's the theory, guys. Just a theory I have. Yeah, for sure. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I think you're onto something. There's someone else in the chat mentioned, like, yeah, this is 100%. I've been following this very closely. There's a lot of political theater to this. This is a great super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Dave, because I did see this energy. I did see this trade deal, and I didn't see anything about energy. Thank you, Dave, for the $4.99. He says Europe and India just signed a huge trade deal, though. Didn't it include energy? So let me put this back up, actually. I didn't get a chance to really read the details of the trade deal, but it's more about removing tariffs, having a free exchange of labor, because there were a lot of conservatives that were pissed because now there are going to be a lot of Indian skilled workers that will be allowed into the EU. And I've been reading this. I don't see anything that say energy. You know what I mean? Like he says, the free trade agreement will see India reduce tariffs on European automobile and agricultural products, while the EU will do the same for Indian textiles, leather, marine products, gem, and I don't see anything about energy. But I could be missing something because I didn't get a chance to really study this trade deal between India and Europe as a whole. But I appreciate the super chat and bringing it to my attention. I don't see anything that says, but I could be missing something. That's always a possibility. I'm trying to see if I can find. Here it is. I think this is a good time to get to it because it also shows the incompetence of European leaders. Bro, the right wing on this super chat, bro, they're going crazy. Like, bro, they're going crazy about this trade deal with India because there's like a lot of racism that white people have against Indians. The same with black people. The same with indigenous people, Palestinians. But look at this. This is a part of the trade deal, apparently. Yeah, here, Dave. Thank you for the super chat, man. And thank you for spurring conversation. Look, this is the only thing I got a chance to really look into on this deal. And I've been greatly enjoying how the ruling class has been melting down. I mean, sorry, not the ruling class, the right wing. The super anti-immigrant right wing, bro. They are currently freaking the fuck out. Look, the EU signs an agreement on mobility with India, facilitating the movement of students, researchers, seasonal and highly skilled workers, and launches the first EU legal gateway office in India to support Indian talent moving to Europe. I don't think we need to watch this video, but this is them planning on exporting more Indian labor. And to say that the right wing on Twitter wasn't furious about this will be a massive understatement. This video in a nutshell. I don't know if I can play any more of that, but like this in a nutshell sums up how Republicans reacted to this news. Look, housing crisis in the EU, youth unemployment rate at 15% across the entire EU, and there's not a single EU citizen that got to vote on their decision to allow more Indian workers in. So once again, there are a lot of right-wingers that are attacking this deal, but I understand the critique. Like, your people are suffering, going through energy crisis. You got a massive unemployment problem. The Europe economy is in shambles. And you guys see how their first thought is like, we need to bring more Indians in. We need to bring more foreigners in. So I'm not an immigration hardliner, but I do understand the critique. Do you guys? I understand the critique. I think this is a part of European leaders' incompetence. Do you guys get it? I'll try to see if you guys agree with me on this or not. But I think this kind of covers the EU deal with India. I didn't have much time to look into it. Let me do another one. I know you're covering EU scrubs, but do you have any thoughts on Scheinbaum allegedly stopping its oil distribution to Cuba? Is that true? Because I saw a report that said Claudia Scheinbaum is going to continue Cuba oil. I'll be greatly disappointed. Bro, that's actually very devastating. I saw reports that said that Scheinbaum was going to have solidarity with Cuba no matter what. And now this super chat is shattering me right now. Look at this. I just fact check this. You're 100% right. Look at this. Mexico's president says cancellation of oil shipments to Cuba is sovereign decision. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Scheinbaum is not going to be anyone's savior. We know that. In fact, many leftists was always very skeptical of Mexican leaders because there's just a simple reality, a simple material reality that people need to understand. That a Mexican president cannot be a revolutionary. Do you guys realize that there was a massive, I still remember that there was massive skepticism on AMLO, the last Mexican president. I was extremely skeptical of him because it's the left geopolitical understanding that Mexico, who is right next to the United States, literally shares a border with the United States. There's only so much that they can realistically do to fuck with the United States before the United States ruin their economy. They're extremely reliant, and I'm not making an excuse at all for Claudia Sheinbaum, but this is an understanding that many leftists have for a very long time until AMLO, because then AMLO came, and AMLO was better than many people thought he was going to be. Like many people expected just an ordinary social democrat who may speak out on some things, but AMLO was better than most people thought. So I think that's why a lot of people had high expectation for Claudia Sheinbaum. But this is extremely disappointing, and this is her selling out the Cuban people. There's no light way to say it, and people need to adjust their expectations. It's great that Claudia Sheinbaum reduced poverty in her country. It's great that she's massively popular. It's great that she's focused on poverty reduction programs and all this, but it's not good that you're selling out the Cuban working class. I will always be critical of Sheinbaum, and this is true. I just now learned this now. So this is going to be an asterisk on her forever. I'm glad that she's reducing poverty in the country, but we don't support people selling out the global majority in Cuba. So, hey, I'm not Mexican. I can't vote for her. I can't vote against her anyway. It is very good. I'm heartbroken. I've been greatly enjoying Claudia Sheinbaum's term thus far. She did a great job standing for Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro. She's been a very common sense voice on the national stage. That's why it is 100% sad to see this. And thank you for Tuzo for breaking that news to me. I didn't see that. Yep. No, I understand. Like, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, Mexico, like, there are a lot of weak European countries you can criticize for not doing enough. But, bro, Mexico really have no fucking leverage over the United States. Every single Mexican president will always be deferential to the United States. That's why AMLO caught people off guard based on how adversarial he was during Donald Trump's first term. You know what I mean? He was critical of the genocide in Gaza. And that was shocking, seeing a Mexican president do that. But people need to retemper their expectations, because a Mexican president can never be a revolutionary, ever. Like, it's not, you're way too close to the empire. But we just got to be in love with, I'm very disappointed, if you can't tell, because Claudia Sheinbaum has done great things domestically with her poverty reduction programs. But this is sad to see. It's sad to see. So thank you for Tuzo for breaking that for us. Zoya's life, the homie of all homies. U.S. is a genocidal criminal state. Countries will act in self-preservation when threatening. Venezuelan leadership sold out too. Not everyone willing to die. Once again, if you're a Mexican leader, you cannot be a revolutionary. I don't want to like dull people's criticism of these people, but it's just geopolitical reality that Mexico is not going to save us. And I said this on our channel all the time. Russia and China is not going to save us. Russia and China is providing an amazing alternative for the global majority when it comes to doing business with someone else outside the United States empire. And they are protecting their sovereignty and their interests. They are not going to help us wage a revolution It's very annoying when people like pretend that that's the role they're supposed to play. Xi Jinping is not here for us to have a socialist revolution, just like Claudia Sheinbaum isn't. If we want to stop the United States from threatening leaders like Claudia Sheinbaum, we need to get serious about general strikes and destroying our ruling class. That's why I try to keep my criticism tempered, especially when there's a leader popular like Claudia Sheinbaum. You can't expect them to make the sacrifices that we should be willing to make. Like Americans, they won't even stop watching Disney. Like I couldn't tell you the last time I watched Disney, ESPN. I haven't watched international soccer in a long time. And Sarah from DDG, she gave me good advice. She's like, man, nigga, you can't let these motherfuckers ruin your life. I was like, bro. I honestly, I used to love international soccer. I legitimately don't enjoy. I have a hard time enjoying it because the whole time I'm watching it, like the entire time I'm watching like a good game. Like there were Champions League games that I was watching. I'm like, bro, these motherfuckers let Israel compete. The whole time I'm watching, they kicking the ball, they scoring goals. The only thing that's going in my mind, and when I usually will be enjoying the game, is these fucking Zionist assholes banned Russia, but they're allowing Israel to compete, despite the fact that Israel murdered the entirety of the Palestinian football team. You know the Palestinians that was competing during the last World Cup? You know they're all dead, right? They're all dead. So anyway, I think until I see Americans start making sacrifices, until you guys turn your ESPN and Disney subscriptions off, I try to temper my criticisms of leaders who I think are doing good domestically, but have no choice but to bow to Trump and United States neocon threats because we fail to hold our ruling class accountable. But I will admit that is kind of cope. that is kind of cope because I am disappointed in Sheinbaum here, but I think we can have multiple thoughts at once. You guys witnessing my coping session here. I've been greatly enjoying her term, so I will bring this up relentlessly. And I think her saying that this is a sovereign decision, I think she's lying there, man. She denied move with response to pressure from the United States after Trump said zero oil would be going to Cuba. I think that's a lie, but I understand that she's taking care of her own people. That's why she's popular. All right, let's get back to Europe. Yeah, she did kind of bend the knee there. Thank you, Vertuzo, for breaking that for us. Damn, like I get it. You got some drag. I get it, man. That's a big, like, bro. That's such a big L for Sheinbaum. Damn, that's sad. Cause she was killing it before this. I don't know, maybe if I missed something else between the cracks, but she was killing it before this. Yeah, pro sports is rigged as hell. Like that's like a whole nother topic, bro. And there was this guy who was caught by literally the Department of Justice for, I'll blank on this guy now. I'm not a big basketball head like I used to be, but this guy was caught rigging games, taking bets because now that sports betting is legalized. Bro, and then there was a compilation of how he was playing that game, and bro, it's a complete joke. He was like throwing the ball away, like not even being subtle about it. And they were like, bro, they immediately looked into him. They're like, he got mafia connections. So yeah, it's capitalism corrupts all. Capitalism corrupts all. Is that the guy I'm talking about? Terry Roser. I'm pretty sure I can find NBA gambling arrest. I guess I gotta use AI for this. Sorry guys, here it is. Look, here's here's the story. I mean, like bro, this blew up. I remember they got Chancey Billups. Bro, Chancey Billups was the homie. That back when I used to watch basketball a lot. Back when I used to play basketball, I used to play point guard back in the day. I used to watch during the Allen Iverson era. Like, bro, there's no era that will ever fuck with that era. I know a lot of people say that NBA players are way more talented now, and they are. Wemby is incredible. Like, Wemby is. I know the basketball players are probably more talented now, but bro, that era with Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant, you had a young Dirk Nowitzki coming up. You had a younger KG dominating the league. Shaq and Kobe hooked up. Fam, there was no era in the NBA that would ever fuck with that era. That's why the NBA ratings are fucking tanking now. And now the NBA ratings so bad they got openly rigged games. Look, I know some people are gonna say the Jordan era was best, but fam, no, it wasn't. I'm sorry. Like Jordan was good because he had the rivalry with Clyde Drexler. You saw a young Shaq rise up. You had the bad boys in Detroit. Don't get me wrong, man. Don't get me wrong. The Jordan era was fire, and it was the best ratings for NBA history. But bro, the early 2000s smoked the Jordan era. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Jordan and Pippen ran the game too hard. There was like they had John Stockton and Karl Malone. That was a counter, but they couldn't really do shit to him. You had Penny Hardaway and Shaq back in the mid 90s, but they couldn't really do shit to the Bulls. But like in terms, I know that maybe I'm kind of contradicting myself because Kobe and Shaq did dominate the early 2000s, but bro, we was on, I don't know, that era. Maybe I'm biased because that's the era I really grew up in. Yeah, Peyton Karl Malone. You guys know that Karl Malone impregnated like a 14-year-old girl, maybe 13. Crazy. That's crazy work. Anyway, we can get back to topics here soon. You guys know I'm just going off topic a little bit. I was a big hoop head back in the day. I'm still good at basketball. I post about it every once in a while. I still got a mean jump shot. I used to be my favorite player was Allen Iverson, but I played more like a Steve Nash type. I'll shoot a three every once in a while, but I'm mostly here to hook up my teammates, get assists. That was my play style. You know what I mean? I swear to God, bro, if I was 6'2", 6'4", I would have been at least D1. I would have been at least D1 if I was tall, because I was really good. I was really good at basketball. I'm still good at basketball. That's why to see Chauncey Billups get taken down here. Ooh, boy. Chauncey Billups. And Roser was the guy. This is the scandal I was talking about. So the UFC was ruined by capitalism. Just like team sports are ruined by capitalism. That's a whole essay about the UFC, but I'll spare you guys on that. You're like my cousin, yeah. We're all kind of like family here. Let me see. Before I get back on topic, we talking about the EU. Before I do that, I'll read some more chat since I'm already kind of off topic. Yeah, I posted I couldn't get a video. I need to get someone to get video of me shooting. Cause I've been working on my shot recently, bro. My shot is still fucking fire. My shot is still fire. I started playing basketball again, like after taking a few years off when I was super rusty. I'm like, dude, fuck that. I can't be one of these old ass bums who can't hoop. So I've been working on my shot. I think my shot is pretty good now. All right, let's get back. Let's get back to a topic. My ball play style is making anyone look good by either. Yeah, you here to get your ankles broke to make anyone else look good. What a great guy this guy is. Yeah, the NBA is still pushing gambling. Bro, the sports changed so much since they legalized gambling. Bro, I'm telling you guys, if I was 6'4", you guys wouldn't know me. Bro, if I was 6'4", I would have at least made D1. At least made D1. But you got to know basketball is a game all about height. So I'm just average height. You know what I mean? I'm average height. Oh, fuck. Did I close one of my sources? Either way. All right, let's get back to it. Here is Robert Fico. Didn't he survive an assassination attempt? I wouldn't be surprised if it was an assassination attempt by the Ukrainian fascist. Am I getting this guy's name right? Fico? I'm trying to find his story. Yeah, Robert Fico, the Prime Minister of Slovakia. He with Viktor Orban, they're like the only people in Europe who haven't completely and utterly lost their mind. Because there are still divisions in Europe, and this technically hasn't passed yet because they're going to try to Viktor Orban and Robert Fico. I'm going to see if I can find this source I read earlier. I didn't have it say. I'm going to see if I can find it. Here from 2 days ago, it's like EU countries get final approval. So is it done? I thought I saw a story where they was explaining how Robert Fico and Viktor Orban, they're gonna like appeal this decision, but I think it might be over actually. So here's Robert Fico, who is hated among the American liberal class, the same way we talked about this on Monday with Viktor Orban. The real reason why Bernie Sanders can't stand him, the reason why liberals can't stand Viktor Orban, is because Viktor Orban has been a critic of the NATO proxy war in Ukraine. He's been a critic of Europeans destroying their quality of life in order to serve United States neocon interests. And Robert Fico is too. Is this done?
Zajtra budem strašne nadávať.
I was trying to find a dub video. But either way, this is I'll just read the transcript of kind of what he said. Robert Fico called the ban on the import of Russian gas approved today by the EU Council ideologically stupid, and announced that Slovakia, together with Hungary, is filing a lawsuit. So I think that's what I was thinking about. So Viktor Orban, Robert Fico is going to sue the EU because he's like, bro, you guys are fucking dipshits. You guys, they are heavily reliant on Russian gas the same way that many countries in Europe are. But unlike many European leaders, just like India and China, they're like, bro, we should not. There will be a death sentence for us. There's no way we're gonna follow this stupid ass shit. Yeah, there's Zoya. I need to be watching Zoya's comments because Zoya always knows what's up. She's always in the lab cooking. But I think I've been on the Europe story for enough. I think we can begin, right? I just want to show you guys the only two European leaders that are not completely crazy. And I'm not even saying that on an ideological lens. I'm not even sure about Robert Fico's ideology. We covered how Viktor Orban is friends with Netanyahu. I don't give a fuck about him. But at least these people are not willing to sell out their working class in order to serve the interests of the United States elites. I'm actually want to see if I can get. I'm gonna see if I can find a quote from Viktor Orban on this. Bro, if you search Viktor Orban and you look at what the Washington Post, New York Times, and all the liberal corporate media outlets say about him, bro, he's like, they talk about Viktor Orban the same way that we talk about Benjamin Netanyahu. Oh, here's one story. Slovakia, Hungary to sue EU over Russian gas ban. Good luck. Good luck. You guys see, this is one of the reasons why they couldn't stand them, as they was calling for a massive decrease in buying Russian gas. You had Viktor Orban and you had Robert Fico that was like, nigga, no, you out of your mind. We're gonna buy. In fact, we're gonna buy even more gas from them just because you guys on that bullshit. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how this storyline plays itself out. But this is from 2 months ago. Viktor Orban seeks more Russian oil and gas at talks with Putin in Moscow. All right, for real, I think we can move on now. Let me. I think we're gonna talk about Iran next and the military buildup in Iran. So I think that would be our next segment here. Let me check the super chats, make sure we ain't missing super chats, and then we'll get to. I want to debunk some propaganda on this. I've been watching a lot of European neocon news segments on the Trump administration. The reason why I've been watching a lot of like Germany BBC segments is because I find like CNN, Fox News, like the American corporate media is just so unbearable, bro. And trust me, these people are unbearable too. But it's like, at least they discuss these details. At least they discuss these stories more in detail. Like United States corporate media, I don't know, man. Their coverage of this has been very, like, liberal corporate media have been trying their best to avoid these kind of stuff. So I've been watching a lot of European news outlets to see how they describe the war in Iran, for example. And this is you had Donald Trump who's escalating these threats. Trump warns Iran time is running out for nuclear deal as United States buildups in the Gulf. So this war, based on everything we're seeing, everything that's coming from all the Zionist outlets, that's coming from the Trump administration, this is going to 100% happen. And Donald Trump kind of tells on himself here because they said they're worried about Iran's nuclear buildup in the way they're threatening Israel. I thought that you dismantled the nuclear program during the 10-day war. I thought you guys bombed and destroyed Iran's nuclear facilities. Remember when I told you guys that Donald Trump and the entirety of the West lied to the world in order to cope with the fact that they had a failed military strategy against Iran? Actually, before I continue to say, I'm gonna actually end the RBN stream. I forgot to do that. So the RBN stream is gonna be about 45 minutes. Let's end the RBN stream. If you're on the RBN YouTube channel, make sure you guys follow me on my personal YouTube page, Nick Cruz. So yeah, let's